I'm sure will come up anyway. So obviously, we're just really gutted for Spencer Shrader and the news that obviously Shane told you guys that broke that he's going to be out for the season. Just really obviously unfortunate news. Hard to necessarily put that all into words, and you guys understand that. So I love the kid. I recruited him to the University of Notre Dame, so I had an interesting path with him to already have known him and his family. Obviously, he then came to us as an undrafted free agent last year and was with us in the offseason and the start of the season. Did an unbelievable job. We all knew that he had a really special leg talent, but there were things that he needed to improve from a consistency standpoint with his mechanics and with his mental routine. And, he benefited from being here and being at some other teams last year to learn from some different veterans, did an unbelievable job to kind of take some of that stuff that he learned to take himself to the next level. Did a great job with us this offseason, did a great job. Obviously to start this season, as we all know, but he continued to improve and was really kicking at another level. His confidence was really high. He changed his mechanics from a three-step to a two-step, was really mastering his mental routine, and was really just continuing to keep getting better and better. So I know with his positive attitude, with the work ethic and everything he already put in to make the improvements and to be the really good kicker that he's really turned into being, that he'll be able to attack this rehab. And we look forward to, getting him back when we possibly can. Just can't say enough positive things about how he handled really everything and was off to an excellent start this season. Obviously, that led into us in the game, obviously having to go into an emergency field goal situation. We have, backups at every single position, obviously in the NFL. When you only have three specialists up, one kicker, one punter, one long snapper, you have to have a number of different contingency plans if somebody were to go down. Our contingency plan for field goal, I realize, is a little bit non-traditional. Typically, you would just sub in an offensive player or a quarterback to be the holder. Um, if your punter ended up having to be the kicker, like we did with Rigo. At the end of the day, we're trying to put ourselves in the best position, obviously, to be successful. And the most important position within that field goal operation is the holder. The holder's job is to be able to be the caddy for the kicker, to be able to run the operation and the cadence. And the most important thing is we get the ball down correctly on the spot. And a lot of times what you'll see happen, like what happened in our game in 2023, when Ryan Stonehouse went out injured against the Titans, they sub in a quarterback to holder. And what's the first thing that happens? They miss a PAT. If you don't get that ball down correctly on the spot, which may seem and sound easy, but that ball needs to be exactly where the spot is, not off by an inch. That hold cannot be off. The snap can be slightly off, but that hold cannot be off. And our best backup holder by far, who has great hands and has been on the hands team his entire career, coincidentally, is Luke Rhodes. Now, we do rep two other offensive players as a holder as well, and get reps with some of those guys. But the guy that is going to give the absolute most confidence for the kicker that ball is going to be on the spot, whether the snap's perfect or not, is going to be Luke. We rep both Drew Ogletree and Tyler Warren as backup long snappers. They've done a very good job at working that. Being a long snapper is a specialized position, is difficult, especially when you're talking about in punt, when you're snapping the ball 15 yards and then having to be able to set in protection. However, for field goal, Drew Ogletree is a very good field goal snapper. It's only an 8-yard snap. It doesn't have to be perfect because Luke's going to get the ball down very cleanly, and we trust that those guys are going to have a really good operation doing that. We did rep that in practice. We rep it in practice. Most recently, we did it 2 weeks ago when Rigo, as we know, was not at practice on a Wednesday field goal practice day due to personal reasons. So we ended up having Ogletree snap that day. Luke Rose held that day. Shout out to Joel. He was the one guy that went up to Connie and asked why the field goal operation was different 2 weeks ago on that Wednesday. So thanks for paying attention during field goal period, Joel. We ended up making all the kicks that day, had no operational issues. That's been a good operation for us. Obviously, in the game, it comes a little bit down to analytics, game management, probability of scoring from the two when our offense is doing a really good job versus making a 33-yard field goal. We did have the plan to be able to hit an end-to-half field goal there if that opportunity came up. Obviously, we got the touchdown to Michael Pittman, didn't end up having to do that. But that is certainly the situation as we work through all of those things. Thought overall, we did a solid job. It's unfortunate that, the kick opportunity unit continues to get better and better, and we had a penalty that ended up bringing back a really great return for Ashton Doolin. Just shout out to Ashton Doolin. What an unbelievable job he's able to do, taking on more reps on offense, still able to do his special teams roles. Is really an elite special teams player. Everybody talks about him as a gunner, but when you look at the body of work he's also had as a returner, this year and last year, really, really special player and a really good returner. Another thing that came up, obviously we look at kickoff. I think the last 3 games, the guys have done a good job, both from a kick and cover standpoint. Across the NFL, it's a 79% return rate. So you're looking at, the play is being effective. We're getting a lot more returns. It's an exciting play. We kicked off from the 50-yard line after Spencer Shrader's roughing the kicker penalty. What you will see both this year and last year, and I think it only happened like 5 times last year, but if you kick off from the 50, pretty much every time you're going to kick it out of bounds. I know there's a lot of confusion on the TV broadcast about that. The rule is written that when you kick it short of the landing zone or out of bounds, the ball will be spotted 25 yards from the spot of the kick, or you can take it from where it went out of bounds. So if you kick it deep and out of bounds, 25 yards from the spot of the 50 would be the 25-yard line. A little bit of a loophole to the rule that was addressed with the rules committee during the combine about maybe we need to relook at that. Obviously, it wasn't changed. That was something that showed up last year with the new kickoff rule. So that is something that you'll continue to see if on the rare occasion you see a 50-yard line kickoff. Obviously, Shegu did an unbelievable job, getting the punt block. Was not some, special designed thing. They got it in a non-traditional punt formation. So instead of having 2 wings off the ball, which would traditionally be 3 to 4 yards off the ball, and 1 PP in the middle of the formation, they got into a bit of a trick formation or a gimmick formation. They showed to do that 4 times in games last year. They knew probably in that situation we were likely to rush, and they tried to get in a situation or formation to check us out of rushing. We knew that, whenever you put a wing who's normally off the ball up on the line of scrimmage, it becomes a more challenging block for that wing to then be able to make because they don't have the depth to be able to kick to beat a wide rusher on the edge to the direct angle of the block spot. Shegu had a teach tape perfect get off wide on the edge. He was able to dip, so it made it really difficult for that wing to be able to block them from the angle that they were at. He won his one-on-one matchup, did a great job to be able to get the block, and it's really just a credit to him, using great technique, understanding the situation. The guys got into the proper call for the situation. He won his one-on-one matchup, and we were able to just put, somebody in a better situation versus a difficult, block for them. Field goal wise, kicking wise, obviously we've got to figure out. We don't officially have a new kicker named. We did work out a group of kickers earlier today. We're still working through that process, so I'm not going to be breaking any news there on exactly who the new kicker is. Certainly based on however that situation works out, we could still use Rigo on kickoffs or the new kicker or have the versatility to use both of them, and we'll kind of sort through that this week as we move forward.
Thanks, Mace. We can do a couple questions. Chap, go ahead.
Considering like 2/3 of your field goal unit is so experienced, how long does it take that kicker to kind of get his nuances in sync with them? I mean, do they adjust to him? Does he adjust to them? How does that work?
Yeah, so really, the biggest person that will make the adjustments will be the holder. So that'll be Rigo. So Rigo, it's really important for the holder to kind of like you would in golf, be the caddy to be able to make sure he is mentally and physically ready. He knows when the kicker's ready for the snap. So he'll make sure the formation's correct, make sure the cadence is correct, make sure the kicker's got the spot exactly the way he wants it. And so Rigo will be the one to then make the adjustment of understanding when's the kicker ready. How does the kicker want the ball spotted? Does he want forward lean? Does he want the nose of the ball lean towards the holder? Does he just want the ball straight up and down vertical? Some kickers want it slightly different, and they might want it different in different situations, with different weather conditions or with different distance of the kick. So that'll be Rigo, and Rigo's an excellent holder. Obviously, he's a veteran. With us having 2 veteran guys, that will certainly be able to make things a little bit smoother of a transition with them kind of really understanding how to be able to operate and having a lot of experience doing that both in a practice and game setting. So we would expect that that could be a smooth transition for whoever that kicker is. But certainly it's still going to take some reps this week for them to be able to get comfortable with each other as we work through some of that.
So those are small details, but not really small details. How a kicker likes the ball.
Correct. And it's kind of like when everybody's like, well, just put the quarterback in, he'll get it on the spot, right? I mean, there are a lot of details. Hey, he wants it on this exact spot with this lean. You got to make sure you have some of those details down.
Joel, go ahead.
Shea Goose rush. And by the way, yes, I'm always watching special teams. I love it. But Shea Goose rush is some of that his recognition of what you guys had said and knowing how to attack that wing?
Yeah, certainly there's recognition for him to be able to execute and do it. We thought, since they had shown to do a non-traditional formation that we could have an advantage off the edge. We showed a clip from around the NFL 2 weeks ago where there was a similar situation that happened where they were able to win off a short edge in a non-traditional formation. So we saw like, hey, there is a potential weakness here when somebody gets in one of these non-traditional formations. There are different checks or different things we can do if somebody is shown to do a lot of these non-traditional formations where you can get somebody maybe in a little bit more of a weakness. We did that in 2023 with the Titans when they got in a non-traditional formation and we ran a pressure and Tony Brown blocks a punt. So sometimes when people do things that aren't a traditional punt formation, you can find like a weakness or a way to win a matchup. In this instance, Shegu just understood, hey, this guy's in a bad position. This is something we've talked about for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to widen out, and this is how I'm going to beat him.
Couple more, James.
Brian, what makes Ashton Dulin a good football player in whatever aspect you put him out there in?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this before, but he's a special athlete. First off, he's got really good play strength. He's got great burst and acceleration. He's got good top end speed. So, compared to maybe a lot of other people at his position, or that's a wide receiver or DB, he's a strong guy that's well built, that's going to be able to tackle, hold up at the point of attack as a blocker. You can see that he's very physical and aggressive and a really good blocker on offense, has experience playing on both sides of the ball. I think also has benefited from he was a small college guy. So a small college guy, maybe that's a little bit of a generalization, but typically they've done a lot more roles and had to do a lot more roles in order to make it to where they are. So in order for him to grind from, being an undrafted small college guy that's had to play in a lot of different ways and roles, that's allowed him to develop probably as a more well-rounded football player than some guys that have just been specialized on one position forever.
And last question, Stephen.
Hey Brian, I think I'm right about this. Rigo, I don't think has handled kickoff since he had the Achilles a couple years ago. But I remember him being just really good at like placement of the ball, like putting it in the corner when he used to kick off. I don't know what you'll do, but would those skills translate well to to the new kickoff format?
Yeah, for sure. Rigo,
Mhm.
with his soccer background, with his kicking background, he's a very effective and good kickoff specialist. Um, obviously he did a good job for us overall in the game when he filled in that position. He works that, during practice, we don't overdo some of that with him. Naturally, he's got the ability to pick up and do that. And he's got the ability to be a really good kickoff specialist for us. It comes down to a little bit like who's the next kicker going to be? What's their ability to be able to place and work the ball on kickoff? And, ideally, I think Rigo has really been punting at a very high level
Mhm.
over the last year and a half. And I think there's certainly some benefit to him, not having to use some of his leg power or strength on kickoff as well. So him being able to focus on punt certainly I think has allowed him to punt at a really high level too. So finding kind of that balance that we can to be able to, use all of our legs in the best situation possible to set us up for success.
And maybe if you keep scoring touchdowns, maybe it won't matter.